Alrighty. So thank you, folks, for your interest in the New Jersey State Council on the Arts Individual Artist Fellowships. I do want to point out that we have live captioning for today's presentation, and we want to say thank you to our live captioners. I believe down at the bottom, there's an option to view the captions under where it says CC for closed captions. Oops. So just a quick introduction. My name is Jackie Dominis. My pronouns are they, them, or she, her, and I'm the program director for fellowships at Mid-Atlantic Arts. I'm currently zooming in from South Jersey on the ancestral territory of the Lenape people. I'm also very happy to be joined today by Steph Nurbach from the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, who's going to speak in just a minute. Mid-Atlantic Arts administers the application, submission, review, and post-award process on behalf of the New Jersey State Council on the Arts through an ongoing partnership. And this webinar is designed to help you better understand the individual artist fellowships program and help guide you through the application process in the Mid-Atlantic Arts SmartSimple application system. So today what we'll do is review the eligibility and application requirements, and then we'll actually pull up the application itself and provide a demonstration about how to use the system. We anticipate that the presentation portion of the webinar will last about an hour, and then we'll spend time answering your questions at the end of that presentation. Also, just like to note that it's intended to help applicants gain a better understanding of the program and the requirements, but it is not intended as a substitution for reading the rules and instructions, which are available in both English and Spanish on our website. Please, 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 even if you are here today listening to the webinar, please still read through the rules and instructions before you apply. As I mentioned, Steph Nurbach will be my co-presenter for today. So before we begin the actual presentation, I want to invite Steph to say a few words about the State Arts Council and the fellowships program.
Thanks, Jackie. Hi, everybody. Good morning. So again, I'm Stephanie Nurbach, also known as Steph. I work at the State Arts Council in New Jersey. I am the Artist Services Manager there. And in partnership with Jackie and Mid-Atlantic Arts, I manage this program, among other things that I do at the State Arts Council. So of course, I'm pleased to join you today. And the State Arts Council is thrilled to be able to offer this program every year. We offer it annually to practicing artists in the state. And in recent years, we have increased the funding and the number of awards that go out directly to artists in support of their practices. And having done so, we also have seen a substantial increase in the awareness and the excitement around this program and the artists' engagement in it. So taking advantage of this technical assistance here, being with us today, is a really important step in submitting a successful application. So I'm glad you're here. Of course, there are other ways that the State Arts Council supports artists, including professional development opportunities. We also have our public arts program and the New Jersey the New Jersey Arts Annual, and also the State Senior Art Show. And also we have a folk and traditional arts programming here at the State Arts Council. So if you identify as a folk and/or traditional artist, you'll want to learn more about what we do. So to get more information about all the things, you should visit our website always, be in touch with us also by signing up for our newsletters. And that includes our opportunities for the field newsletter, which is a compilation of opportunities, whether it's calls for art, but also professional development and other kinds of opportunities for artists and individuals are in that compilation that goes out monthly. I'm going to put the most recent edition of that in the chat. And if you want to reach me directly, you can email me or give me a call, and I'm happy to speak with you. So that's it from me. I'll put my phone number in the chat as well, and I'll be here to help answer some questions. Thanks, everybody. Back to you, Jackie.
Thank you, Steph. So again, we mentioned as folks were joining, we respectfully ask that you save questions until the end, and that's what that Q&A box is for down at the bottom of your screen. Just because typically we will answer your questions that you might have as we're going through the presentation. And if you still have them at the end, we will make sure that we get to everyone's questions at that point. And also just want to remind folks that we'll be publicly posting the recording of the webinar along with the transcript following today's presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and share a presentation. And I'm going to also turn off my video just so that we hope it runs a little bit smoother. And then let me get this to where it needs to be. Oops. And then Steph, does that look good? Full screen?
Not yet. Oh, yes. Here we go. You got
Good?
it.
Okay,
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay, so before we get into the specific eligibility requirements, we like to just provide an overview of how the program works. So the individual artist fellowships are awarded based on work that applicants have already created. In the application and program rules and instructions that we'll be discussing today, you'll notice that you'll be asked to submit examples of your work from the past 4 years. In order to be eligible for the program, you must be able to submit work that falls within the parameters of one of the categories that's offered during this current round. The completed work samples that you submit in your application will be evaluated through a peer review panel process. If you are recommended to receive a fellowship based on those evaluations, you'll receive a cash award that is almost entirely unrestricted. So what this means is that you can use that funding for almost any purpose which helps support you in your work. So for example, you could apply in sculpture, and if awarded, you could use that funding for sculpting supplies, or you could use it to help support a filmmaking or interdisciplinary project, or to help cover your rent, or childcare, so anything that helps you have more time to focus on your artistic pursuits. Many people are familiar with project grants, where you submit a proposal and receive funding to execute a specific idea or concept to complete in the future. But for the fellowships, you only need to submit eligible examples of your past work, even if you don't have a specific project in mind for the fellowship funding. And also, fellowship recipients have, again, almost complete flexibility to use the funding in a way that works best for them. So the fellowships are offered in a broad range of visual, literary, and performing arts categories. Different categories are offered each year, and as noted in the program rules and instructions, we run on a 2-year category rotation schedule. So this means that applicants have the opportunity to apply to the fellowships more regularly. The categories offered this year in this award cycle are the ones on the screen, and that will be choreography, crafts, music composition, photography, poetry, playwriting, screenwriting, and sculpture. So only applications in these categories will be accepted for the 2027 fellowships. You may submit one application in a single category per year. If your work doesn't fall under one of these categories, then we invite you to see the program rules and instructions for the full category rotation schedule so that you can apply under the appropriate award category in the future. The early bird application deadline for the 2027 fellowships is going to be 5 p.m. on Thursday, June 25th. So that's a little bit earlier than usual, so keep that in mind if you're planning to apply. If you submit by that June 25th deadline, you will be eligible to receive revision requests. And that's if we find an error or a mistake on your application. Meaning if you submit after June 25th and your application has an error, it will just automatically be considered ineligible. So the final deadline will be 5 p.m. on Thursday, July 2nd. Also, please note that the 4th of July holiday will be observed on July 3rd this year, that Friday. and our offices will be closed on July 3rd. So where we will not be available to answer the last minute panic questions that come, if you waited till the very last second and you missed the deadline. So please, please be sure to plan ahead and contact us well in advance of the deadlines if you need assistance. And if you're experiencing any issues accessing the application. Recipients are selected through a competitive evaluation process based on examples of their submitted work in the application. Fellowship applications are reviewed by independent panels of peer evaluators, composed of artists and arts professionals with expertise in the specific discipline that they are reviewing. The recipients of the individual artist fellowships are decided solely on artistic quality as demonstrated by the work samples submitted. It's also important to note that applications are reviewed anonymously. Panelists will not have access to your information as they're reviewing your work. The anonymous review process helps ensure that panelists are not influenced by name recognition or previous accomplishments, education, employment, etc. There is no award quota per artistic discipline or style. The fellowships are awarded to those applicants who demonstrate the highest artistic quality regardless of discipline. So at the end of the evaluation process, the State Arts Council staff combines all the application scores across every discipline offered that year and creates a funding scenario that awards the top scoring applications. Yes, we're still in this one. The amount of the award is determined annually by the State Arts Council from funding provided through the New Jersey Hotel Motel Tax. Fellowship awards have ranged in the past from $3,000 to $32,000. As I mentioned before, fellowships are not project-based, so the funds are not earmarked for any specific purpose other than to help support the recipient. So again, artists may use fellowship awards to purchase supplies, participate in workshops, pay rent for studio space, pay mortgage, childcare, generally use the funding to free their time. Anything really, there's many possibilities. The only limitations are that fellowship funds may not be used for travel outside of the country. They may not be used for study as a matriculated student in either a graduate or undergraduate program, and they may not be used to purchase permanent equipment, which is defined as equipment with a resale value exceeding $350 or having a lifespan over 3 years. Oops. To be considered eligible to apply for a fellowship, applicants must be permanent residents of the state of New Jersey. The applicant must be a current permanent New Jersey resident at the time of application and at the time of award, which will take place in March of 2027. This means that if the applicant moves out of state after the application has been submitted, but prior to being awarded a grant, they are no longer considered eligible. Awarded fellows will be asked to supply 2 forms of verification with their name and home address, such as driver's license or ID card, utility bills, pay stub, lease or mortgage statement, bank account statement, etc. And the full list of acceptable forms of residency verification is available on the rules and instructions. Applicants must be age 18 or older, and the applicant must be the artist whose original work is represented in the submitted work samples. There are some limitations about who may and may not apply to the program. So the following individuals are not eligible to apply. Artists who received a New Jersey State Council on the Arts Fellowship in any category in 2026, 25, 24, 23, or 22 are not eligible to apply for the current year. That does not include finalists. So if you received a finalist award, you are welcome to apply. If you received a fellowship award, you are not able to apply. Applicants may not be matriculated students in a graduate, undergraduate, or high school program at the time of application or award. And collaborating New Jersey artists are not eligible to submit a joint application for collaborative work. The applicant artist must have sole creative control over all the work submitted to the fellowships program under their name. In addition to meeting applicant eligibility, all work samples submitted for consideration must meet a general set of eligibility criteria, regardless of medium. So some of those eligibility requirements are all work samples must have been produced within the eligible timeframe outlined in the rules and instructions. Work completed while the applicant was a matriculated student in a graduate, undergraduate, or high school program is not considered eligible. Works in progress and project proposals are not considered eligible. For the purposes of this program, complete is considered to be the point at which the work is ready for public presentation. And as I mentioned previously, to help ensure that applications are reviewed solely on the artistic quality of the work submitted and not on previous accomplishments or the identity of the artists, the New Jersey State Council on the Arts has made the application review process anonymous for panelists. Accordingly, applicants may not include identifying or biographical information in their work samples, in their work sample files, or on the work sample page of the online application. Including information such as, but not limited to, the artist's name or signature, identifying initials or symbols, professional affiliations, and biographical information may render the application ineligible. If it is not possible for this type of identifying information to be edited out of your work sample, it cannot be submitted as part of the application. We also want you to keep in mind that there are specific technical requirements for work submitted to this program. These requirements just help with consistency, but are also necessary to make sure the work samples submitted are compatible with the software used by the panelists when they're reviewing. In almost every case, it is possible to convert whatever files you have available, but we urge you to plan ahead when preparing your work samples for submission. We also have an extensive work sample preparation guide that's available on the Mid-Atlantic Arts website on the New Jersey Fellowships page, which includes links to free online conversion resources and answers to a lot of frequently asked questions. And all of these requirements are listed in the rules and instructions as well. Works purely generated through AI are not eligible for submission, as the artist must have sole creative control over the conceptualization and implementation of the submitted works. Projects that utilize AI as part of a generative process, but where the artist retains creative control of the finished work, are eligible. If an AI-powered tool was used as part of the creative process, artists should disclose which tool was used and how in the technical information space of the application. All applicants will be given space in the application to address the following question, and this is an optional step and an optional part of the application. So the application context statement question is there any additional written context you want to provide for the panelists to help them better understand the work you are submitting in this application? Contextualizing your submitted work may support your application. If it is necessary for the full reception and understanding of the work you're submitting, you're encouraged to share a brief statement discussing specific ideas. And we have a list of bulleted prompts that correspond to questions panelists are most often considering when reviewing applications. So your statement may include discussing one of the following topics, again, if it is relevant to your submitted work samples. So you can address your cultural background and/or identity and its integration in your submitted work. That includes race, ethnicity, heritage, gender, sexual orientation, disability, religion, cultural traditions, historical context, regionality, community of origin, or personal cultural knowledge. You can discuss the reason for submitting these particular work samples. So for example, sometimes folks like to say that they're trying to represent the full scope of their work, and that's why they've submitted, maybe a couple different pieces from different portfolios. Or if you want to explain that you're submitting a cohesive series of works that fit a particular theme, you can disclose that in the application context statement. You can discuss what you intended to explore conceptually or otherwise with the submitted work, how your creative process is represented in your submitted work samples, and again, if AI was used, how it was integrated into the creative process of any applicable submitted work. We are not accepting standard artist philosophy statements for the application context statement, but rather succinct statements that specifically help panelists contextualize each application and the work applicants choose to submit. While you are encouraged to include an application context statement, the inclusion is optional and is considered secondary to the work samples themselves. We'd like to share that previous panelists have expressed that context statements are often helpful in providing a useful frame of reference for reviewing applications. But if you feel the addition of such a statement is not relevant to your submitted work or is unnecessary for the full reception of your application, you are not required to include one. And the application context statement is limited to 150 words. Artists who choose to submit a statement for the panel should be aware that their response may not include any biographical or identifying information. So again, please do not include your legal or artist name, contact information, such as personal details, social media handles, or agent or media contacts, any biographical information that could be found in a CV or resume, which includes exhibition, performance, or publication history, educational background, information about former or current employment, details about awards, fellowships, grants, residencies. None of those should be included. Please don't include details about the exhibition, performance, or publication of the submitted work if it has been exhibited or published. Any indication, hinted or overt, about the applicant's age, experience level, or where they are in their career. So, for example, you should not include anything that says, I've been practicing for 30 years, or after recently graduating with a degree in blank. Please do not include those in the application context statement. Links to external sources of any kind, such as your website, interviews, anything like that, are not allowed. Direct appeals to the panel, where you explain or information about what the funding would be used for, is not allowed in this section, again, because it's not a project-based award. And also your personal or financial circumstances, as the fellowships are not a need-based grant. And again, it's not meant for a general artistic philosophy statement. It's meant to just give context for the work samples that are submitted. Please note that we do reserve the right to remove a panel statement from an application if it does not meet the requirements of the application context statement. In addition to general work sample eligibility and technical specifications for work samples, each category has specific requirements for the work samples depending on the medium. We're going to quickly review what those are for each category, but again, we ask that you are please be sure to review the program rules and instructions before submitting an application. We also strongly encourage applicants to use the rules and instructions almost as a checklist as they go through the application to make sure that they're meeting all of the requirements for their category. So we're going to go through each of the disciplines, starting first with choreography. So the choreography category accepts choreography in all styles of dance, as well as other types of artistic performance with coordinated movement. Choreographic films are not accepted in this category, but may be submitted in the film, video, or interdisciplinary categories the following year. So video demonstrating 1 to 2 examples of the applicant's original choreographic work must be uploaded into the online application. Applicants have the option to submit either 1 longer work sample or 2 shorter work samples. If submitting 2 work samples, each uploaded video file has a maximum time limit of 5 minutes and may not exceed 250 megabytes. If you're submitting one work sample, the uploaded video file has a minimum time limit of 4 minutes, a maximum time limit of 10 minutes, and may not exceed 500 megabytes. Each uploaded recording should represent one choreographed performance. If the performance being submitted is longer than 5 or 10 minutes, respectively, applicants may choose to either submit a portion of the full work or create a video of excerpts from throughout the performance in order to meet the time limit requirements. The choreography shown in the work sample must have been completed after July 16th, 2022. Only work choreographed by the applicant artist may be shown in the recording. Recording of staged productions are not required. Works performed and recorded in a studio or other contexts are also acceptable. Again, please do not submit works in progress or work completed while the applicant was a student. And again, works purely generated through AI are not eligible for submission. Applicants should also be prepared to supply the following information about each work sample in the application. So for choreography, you'll need the title of the work, the length of the full work, the genre of the discipline, the month and year the work was completed, and again, the optional application context statement. Next category is crafts. This category accepts work in all forms of functional and non-functional craft objects, including those made of ceramics, glass, wood, metal, fiber, textiles, and recycled materials. Applicants will be provided with space to upload 4 to 6 digital images or short video clips of their original work in the application. Either an image or video file will be accepted for each upload. Video may be submitted as documentation for work that physically moves, operates, or is received by the viewer in a way that cannot be shown through images alone. Applicants may submit any combination of images and video that best represent their work within the space allotted in the application. And applicants may submit both image and video documentation of the same work. It is strongly recommended that at least 4 individual pieces of work are represented in your application if feasible. All work samples must have been created after July 16th, 2022. Again, please do not submit works in progress or work completed while the applicant was a student. Works purely generated through AI are not eligible. If submitting video as work sample documentation, each video clip must be no longer than 1 minute in length and no larger than 100 megabytes. Only one work sample should be documented in each video. Video may only provide documentation of the submitted work samples. So in other words, please do not submit promotional videos, still images presented as a slideshow, interviews with an artist, or other commentary that provides interpretation of the work. And then for crafts, applicants should also be prepared to supply this information on each work sample: the title, the medium, the dimensions, month and year of completion. Applicants should describe the production techniques, materials, and technical processes related to the creation of the work samples in the technical information section of the application. And then again, the optional application context statement. Music composition. This category accepts composition in all styles of classical, popular, jazz, hip hop, and folk music, noise and experimental sound, and original music composed for theater. 1 to 2 examples of the applicant's original compositional work must be uploaded into the application. Applicants have the option to submit either 1 longer work sample or 2 shorter work samples. If submitting 2 work samples, each uploaded audio file has a maximum time limit of 5 minutes and 250 megabytes. If submitting 1 work sample, the uploaded audio file has a maximum time limit of 10 minutes and may not exceed 500 megabytes. Each uploaded recording should represent 1 song or composition. If the song or composition being submitted is longer than 5 or 10 minutes, respectively, Applicants may choose to either submit a portion of the full work or edit together excerpts from throughout the recording in order to meet the time limit requirements. All songs and compositions must have been completed after July 16th, 2022. Only work composed by the applicant artist may be heard in the recordings. Studio, live, and MIDI recordings of the song or composition are all considered eligible. Please do not submit works in which the lyrics reference your name or your artist's name. Again, please do not submit works in progress or works completed while the applicant was a student, and works purely generated through AI are not eligible. Applicants are encouraged to upload a score, lead sheet, or other written notation for each uploaded song or composition in the application for panelist reference. The score must be submitted as a PDF document. So if you are including a score or lead sheet, it must be as a PDF. All pages of the score should be numbered, and it must be fully legible, particularly if the document has been scanned and was handwritten. Additionally, music composition applicants should be prepared to supply the following information about each song or composition: the title of the work, the length of the full work, the genre of the discipline, the month and year the work was completed, and the optional application context statement. Photography. This category accepts analog and digital photography, as well as works where photographic techniques are pivotal. 4 to 6 digital images of the applicant's original work must be uploaded into the online application. It is strongly recommended that at least 4 photographs or individual works are represented in your application if feasible. Please do not submit more than 6 examples of your work. All work samples must have been completed after July 16th, 2022. For the purposes of this program, completed means the date on which the photograph took its final form. So whether that's date of capture for digital photography or date of processing for a photographic print. Please do not submit works in progress or work completed while the applicant was a student, and works purely generated through AI are not eligible for submission. Photography applicants should be prepared to supply the following information about each work sample: the title, medium, dimensions, if applicable. Dimensions are not required for digital photography. The month and year of completion. The technical information section is where applicants should describe the production techniques, materials, and technical processes. So for photography, that could be about specific techniques used or processing details, the type of camera that was used, whatever feels necessary. And then also the optional application context statement. Poetry. This category accepts all forms of written poetry. A manuscript of the applicant's original poetry must be uploaded into the application. The manuscript must contain 5 to 15 pages of original poetry by the applicant artist. Each page should only contain one poem. Longer poems may continue onto multiple pages, but do not put multiple short poems on one page. Each poem must be clearly labeled with a title. All poems in the manuscript must have been created after July 16th, 2022. All work samples must be submitted in English. Authors may translate their own work into English if originally written in a different language, but English translations of work by authors other than the applicant and translations of the applicant's work by someone other than the applicant are not permitted. Please do not submit works in progress or work completed while you were a student, and works purely generated through AI are not eligible. Manuscript must be formatted according to the following specifications. So standard 8.5 by 11 page size, 1-inch margins. Text should be a standard easy to read font in 11 or 12 point size. Title pages may only serve as a table of contents for the submitted poems. Title pages will not be factored into the page count. Pages should be numbered, preferably in the lower right-hand corner. There are no restrictions regarding line spacing. Single, double, and shaped spacing are acceptable as long as all other formatting and page length requirements are met. In cases where accompanying images are integral to the understanding of the written work, the applicant may include illustrations or images in their manuscript. Please note, however, that only the applicant's written work is what will be evaluated by the panel. The applicant should provide photo credit for the images in the manuscript or note that the images were created by the applicant to protect their anonymity. Stock photos, clip art, and other images that identify the applicant or are intended to embellish the manuscript will not be accepted. Additionally, applicants in the poetry category should be prepared to supply the following information about their manuscript. The title, please use the name of the first submitted poem as the title of your manuscript. And also, we ask that poetry applicants please title the file to match the title of the work as well. The length of the manuscript, which is the number of pages submitted. Again, the minimum is 5, maximum is 15. The month and year the collection of poems was completed, and the optional application context statement. Playwriting and screenwriting. This category accepts scripts written for stage or screen. One complete script must be uploaded into the online application. The uploaded script must have been completed after July 16th, 2022. Panelists will be asked to read at least the first 15 pages with the option to continue reading the remainder of the script. Scripts may be under 15 pages in length, but no shorter than 5 pages. Adaptations or translations of other works are not permitted. Again, all work samples must be submitted in English. Authors may translate their own work into English if originally written in a different language, but they should not submit translations of work by other authors. Please do not submit works in progress. Outlines or individual acts of unfinished multi-act plays are also not eligible. Please do not submit work completed while the applicant was a student, and works purely generated through AI are not eligible for submission. The manuscript for playwriting, screenwriting submissions should be formatted according to these specifications: standard 8.5 by 11 page size, 1-inch margins. Text should be in standard easy to read font in 11 or 12 point size. We often get asked about the typical programming used to format scripts. That format is fine, again, as long as it follows the rest of these specifications. Title pages will be accepted, but may only serve as a table of contents. Pages should be numbered, preferably in the lower right-hand corner. Again, there are no restrictions on line spacing. Single or double are acceptable as long as all the other formatting requirements are met. And scripts must be text only. They should not contain images or illustrations. Playwriting, screenwriting applicants should also supply the following information about their manuscript: the title of the work. Again, we ask that you please title your file name to match the title of the work. The length of the script in pages, the month and year the script was completed, a short 2 to 3 sentence synopsis of the submitted script. This should not include information such as locations of staged performances or publication or production details. If that's applicable, please do not include those. And again, the optional application context statement. And last but not least, sculpture. All forms of static and kinetic sculpture, as well as installations and three-dimensional public art, are accepted in this category. Applicants will be provided with space to upload 4 to 6 digital images or short video clips of their original work in the application. Either an image or a video file will be accepted for each upload. Video may be submitted as documentation for work that physically moves, operates, or is received by the viewer in a way that cannot be shown through images alone. Applicants may submit any combination of images and video that best represents their work within the space allotted in the application. And applicants may submit both image and video documentation of the same work. Again, it's strongly recommended that at least 4 individual pieces of work are represented in your application. All work samples must have been created after July 16th, 2022. Please do not submit works in progress or work completed while the applicant was a student, and works purely generated through AI are not eligible. If submitting video as work sample documentation in the sculpture category, each video clip must be no longer than 1 minute in length and no larger than 100 megabytes. Only one work sample should be documented in each video, and the video may only provide documentation of the submitted work samples. So again, in other words, please do not submit promotional videos, still images as a slideshow, interviews, or other commentary. Sculpture applicants should be prepared to supply the following information about each work sample: the title, the medium, dimensions, month and year of completion, the technical information such as specific techniques used, how materials were applied, etc. If submitting public art, we ask that you please do not include information regarding its location. And again, the optional application context statement. So some reminders before we begin the demo of the application. I want to reiterate a couple of important points about the work samples that you submit. So first and foremost, please remember to keep your work samples and work sample information anonymous. Be sure to carefully review your work samples and the file properties for any identifying or biographical information and make sure it has been removed. This is the biggest reason that folks end up with their application being ineligible for review, is because they include something that gives away their identity. So for the purposes of this program, please leave out identifying and biographical information such as your legal or artist name, contact information such as personal details, email, address, phone, social media, any biographical information that could be found in your CV or resume, details about the exhibition, performance, or publication of the submitted work, and again, any indication, hinted or overt, about your age, experience level, or where you're at in your career. Again, your work sample should be completed work. The fellowships are not open to project proposals or works in progress. Please only submit your original work. Collaborative work or any work over which you do not have sole creative control is not considered eligible. If you've recently completed a course of study, make sure you're not submitting work you created while you were a student. And again, the artist must be permanent New Jersey resident at the time of application and at the time of the fellowship announcement, which will take place in February or March of 2027. So now that we've gone through the eligibility requirements, I'm going to switch views here so that we can give a quick demonstration of the application system. Okay, and Steph, can you just confirm that you can see that?
I can see it.
Perfect. Okay. So the direct URL to the online application is midatlanticarts.smartsimple.com. That's included in the rules and instructions and on the website. The first thing you'll want to do is open your internet browser and simply type that address in or click the link to get there. You must have a SmartSimple account and be logged in order to access the application. So if you have an existing account, you made one last year or a couple years ago, but you just can't remember your information, you're going to click the Forgot Password button here below the login fields to regain access to your account. What will happen is a link where you can reset your password will be sent to the email associated with your account. If you have applied for an organizational grant through the Mid-Atlantic Arts SmartSimple system in the past year, you will also need to create a new account as an individual artist. So if you're fresh to SmartSimple, you need to start a new account. Applicants must register as individual artists in order to access the fellowship's application. So to create the account, you're going to click the register button right here under the login fields. Again, you have to choose individual artist in order to have access to this application. So if you choose one of these others, once you log in, you will not see the New Jersey individual artist application. So please be sure that you choose individual artist. On this page, you'll enter your information and provide an email address for your account. We strongly recommend registering your individual artist account with a personal email address rather than a business one. Again, this is especially important if your business email is associated with an organization that might apply for grant funding through Mid-Atlantic Arts in the future. I've already registered with an email address for today's demonstration, but once you complete this page and submit your registration, you'll receive an email from SmartSimple prompting you to log in and set your password. The link in that email will take you back to the SmartSimple website where you can set the password and finish activating your account. So I'm going to take us back to the login page. Again, for demonstration purposes, I've already registered, so I'm going to just enter my test account login and password. So once you're logged in, you'll be directed to a landing page that will list all the account options and grant opportunities available to individual artists. From this page, you can also update your profile information and change your password. You can start a new application, access your in-progress applications, or check the status of a submitted application. So to access the individual fellowship application, you're going to click on Funding Opportunities, which is under Available Applications here. So this page will display any opportunities that are currently open to individual artists at Mid-Atlantic Arts. Other grant applications might also be listed on this page, but it's likely that just this New Jersey State Council on the Arts Individual Artist Fellowships application will pop up. And you're going to click the Apply Now button. The first thing that's going to come up on the application that's new as of last year is an eligibility quiz. So this was added essentially for folks to go through and make sure that they are meeting the eligibility requirements before they even get into the application. Okay, so you're going to go through and answer each of these questions. And again, if your answer to one of these makes you ineligible, then you won't be able to access the application. So for instance, if you click that you did receive a fellowship award in one of these years and you answer yes to this, you won't be able to access the application because you're not eligible to apply this year. So obviously, please make sure you read through each of these before answering them, and then you can click submit and continue to application. And it's important to note that when you initially start your application, a smart thing to do is to just click Save Draft right away at the bottom of the page, because that will save a copy of the application to your account. And the application itself is divided into 3 tabs. So the first is the applicant information tab, the second is the work samples tab, and the third is the consent tab. Navigating between those 3 sections is very simple. You can just click on each one to change. Or at the bottom, you'll see these next and back buttons that will take you to the next tab as well. On the applicant information tab, the first section, nothing on this tab will be shared with panelists. So when you're on the applicant information tab, you do not need to worry about the anonymity requirements. So the first thing that you'll be prompted to do is select the category in which you are applying. Some of the information, or rather, when you choose your discipline, so for today's purposes, I'm just going to choose photography as a sample. If you do not choose this discipline, when you go to the work samples tab, you will not be able to upload anything. So I get tons of emails and calls every year, people saying, I don't have any work sample uploads. And each time 99% of the time it's because they did not choose the category that they're applying in. So please make sure that you choose your category first thing on the applicant information tab. Some of the information that you provided when registering for your SmartSimple account will automatically carry over into this tab. So you're going to see some of your info pre-populated, like your name, address, phone number, email. If you need to make edits to any of this, you should be able to do that. Where's the other button? Click here to edit your account profile information is up there in case you need to change anything in your personal information. Just a note that anywhere you see a little red asterisk next to, that means that the field is required. So you need to provide that information in all of those fields before the system will allow you to submit. On the lower half of the page here, you'll provide your artist or publicity name. As noted, this is basically just the name you prefer to use when being publicly addressed as an artist. We will provide this information to the State Arts Council for announcements in the case that you do receive a fellowship. You'll also be asked to choose the county in which you reside. The application also asks for information about any previous New Jersey State Council on the Arts individual artist fellowships that you may have been awarded. If you indicate that you've received a fellowship in the past, it will also ask what year and discipline. And then finally, the New Jersey State Council on the Arts also collects optional demographic information that provides the council with important data about the communities they serve. This information is used for analytical purposes only and will not be seen by panelists or otherwise inform the selection process. So all of those options are drop-down menus here. I'm just skipping them for now, but you can fill them in as you go. I always like to hit save draft just to make sure that nothing gets lost. And then once I've done my applicant information tab, I'm going to click over to the work samples tab. Again, I've selected photography as my category. So the work samples tab is going to provide some instructions for submitting in the photography category specifically. Please keep in mind that this page, the work samples page, will look different if you are applying in a different category. Again, want to remind everyone that anonymity is the cornerstone of the individual artist fellowships program. So it's extremely important that you remove any identifying or biographical information from anything that is included in this tab of the application. Moving down the page, the first requirement will be the work sample upload here. Categories that collect image, audio, and video work samples will use a media library function, which allows you to upload multiple files into your application at once. Once you click the upload button, you'll see the types of files that are allowed. So in this case, we just have image files. The max file size limit is there for each upload. The maximum number of files that can be uploaded is listed. You'll click the Browse Files button to locate the files on your computer. So I'm just going to use some photos of my dog.
I was going to say, please tell me you have photos of your dog.
So I've selected these 3 images to upload for the application. Please keep in mind the upload speed will depend on your personal internet connection and the size of the files. But once they're uploaded, your work samples will be added to your media library here. You can preview the images by clicking on the thumbnails, and that will make them larger to view. If you are submitting video or audio files as part of your category, please note that the upload may take several minutes to process for preview, depending on the length and size of the file. But once they have processed, you should be able to play those back for review before you submit your application. Again, as we went through, each work sample has metadata information under each of it that needs to be filled in. It's required. To edit that information, you just click this little pencil button here. and it will pull this up where you can enter the title of the work, the medium, the dimensions, etc., and all of that necessary information. You do need to do that for each work sample that you upload. Again, the information that's collected here might look different depending on your category, but once you've entered your metadata information for the work sample, you'll click the save button. And then again, anytime I'm updating things, I like to click save draft just to make sure. Please note that if you're applying in poetry or playwriting, screenwriting, you'll just have a simple file upload field for a PDF, and you'll enter the information about your work samples into the form as prompted. You won't need to click an edit metadata button. So if you are a poetry or playwriting, screenwriting person, you're not missing anything with the edit metadata button. It's not there for those categories. It's just organized a little bit differently. And then below the work sample section, all applicants will have, again, this optional field to provide an application context statement. As a reminder, your application context statement is limited to 150 words. Things that you can include and cannot include are all listed right here in the application for you above the actual box itself. And then at the very bottom of the work samples tab, you'll just be asked 2 questions that are intended to help verify that you've completed all of the necessary fields and that the information submitted in this tab is anonymous. So you'll select yes for the confirmations. Again, I'm going to save draft just to be safe. And then the third tab is just the consent tab. After you've uploaded your work samples and filled in all the related information for your respective category, all applicants will be required to provide their consent to the terms and conditions of the New Jersey State Council on the Arts Fellowships Program. So you'll review this information. You'll need to click I have read and agreed to the statements listed above in order to submit the application. One other thing I want to show before talking about submitting is over on the left-hand side here, you'll see main and you'll see the option for notes. If you have a question or need technical assistance as you're completing your application, if you click the notes tab here, you can start a new note in the purple button that says new note, and whatever message you write here will get sent directly to my email. And it will also be saved on your actual application. So let's say you're having trouble uploading your work samples. You can put the subject uploading work samples, and you can type your whole problem into this box here, and it will save on the actual notes side over here. So you'll see now when I go back, the note is here, and it will also go directly to my email inbox. So it is the easiest and quickest way for me to jump into your application, see what the issue is, and reply to you right here to answer the question. So please keep that in mind. If you get to something that's giving you trouble in the application, you can always go to this notes section here. Finally, when you're all set, again, obviously I skipped a bunch of things, so it's not going to let me submit. But if you've done everything in the applicant information tab and the work samples tab, you've reviewed it all very carefully, you're ready to submit, you can click the submit button at the bottom of the page. If you've missed a required field or if other errors are found, which mine will have many, you'll see at the very top of the page, this red error box will pop up and it will list all of the things that are missing. It will tell you what can't be empty, what information you still need to enter. So I'm not going to go back in and fill everything in today, but you'll see those reminders and then you'll know what needs to be fixed. If everything is verified, the application will confirm that you're ready to submit, and you can go ahead and click yes and submit it. Once the application has been submitted, you'll no longer be able to make changes. So again, please review it carefully prior to clicking the submit button. If you're unsure of the eligibility requirements, please go back to the rules and instructions document. And if you still have questions, shoot me an email or add a note on the side there prior to submitting. Once you submit your application, you'll receive a confirmation message in SmartSimple, and it will also send an automatically generated confirmation email with a copy of your application attached to your email. Sometimes those go to your spam or junk folders, so just keep that in mind. If you're not seeing it, it's always good to check those. No further actions are required at that point. It could take several minutes for that email to get there, so we just ask for your patience. And then I will also just note that submitting your application means that you have filled in all the required information and provided the correct work sample file types, but it does not necessarily mean that you've met all of the eligibility and technical requirements. We try to provide those reminders throughout the application, but it's ultimately up to you to make sure that you followed the rules and instructions. Before we wrap up, also, one other thing I'd like to reiterate is that you do not need to complete the application all at once. So let's say I just went in, I wanted to check it out. I started uploading my photos like I did. But I want to log back in at a later time. I can just click save draft, and that anything that I filled out already will be there for me when I log back in. The information will be saved. So if I click save draft, let's say I've logged out and it's a couple days later, I log back in. If you scroll down your main page here under my applications, yours hypothetically should just say 1 in progress. But you can access that application under in progress. If you have submitted your application, you'll be able to view it under submitted. You won't be able to make changes to it, but you will be able to view it there. And let's see, is there anything else? After the fellowships have been awarded and notifications have been sent, you'll be able to see that under this section, the approve/decline section. And I believe that is about it in terms of SmartSimple. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to turn my camera back on. And yeah, so I'll just say quickly, again, Mid-Atlantic Arts administers the application submission and review on behalf of the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. And our purpose is that we're here to help you through the application process. So all of those things being said, please feel free to be in touch. Again, prior to the deadline is much preferred, and the earlier the better, just because when those deadlines kick in, it becomes very chaotic for all of our friends who like to submit at the very last minute. So questions about the rules and instructions, questions about the application process, technical issues, you can email me at any time, and I'll put my email on the screen before we leave, but it's literally just fellowships@midatlanticarts.org. Steph, can you drop that in the chat for me? Email is always preferred. It's the easiest, quickest way. If you prefer to call, you can also call. And I'll put the phone number in the chat in a second. Again, we also are just regular humans who work regular human business hours. So that's typically between 9 and 5 on weekdays. And we're closed on federal holidays also. So again, first come, first serve basis. Please be aware that the demand increases significantly right around the deadline. So we've got the 2 deadlines this year, the early bird and the official one. So the earlier you reach out, the better, and the easier it is for us to help you. And we will, I think, Steph, we're ready to open it up for questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Please do keep in mind, I see there's a ton already, I think, or some already. Please do keep in mind that your question, because we're in a webinar format, will be shared with everyone. If you have a more private question that you want to ask, feel free to email afterwards. And also, we ask that folks try to keep their questions at least fairly general. If you have a very specific question that is super specific to your exact work sample, Again, it's better to reach out via email or phone for those questions. Are we mostly in the Q&A, the chat, or?
I think we're in both, but I can start in the Q&A for now.
Okay.
And then we can move over to the chat and see what we're missing. Okay, so the first one I see in the Q&A is, does the work have to be created in New Jersey? No.
That was good. The
That was
first
an
one is easy.
easy one. No, your work does not have to be created in New Jersey. It can be created anywhere in the world. But you have to be a New Jersey-based artist.
Yes.
Yeah. Next is a series of 3 questions from the same artist. Hello, does the cover page of the script count in the page count?
No, the cover page does not count.
And the title of the work and month and year it was completed. So do not include your name as the writer on the cover, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
No names on the work samples.
No names. Also, final draft script writing software format, typewriter font, and basically 11.5 to 12 point font size is okay.
Yes, and I think Final Draft, I think, is the program. It's either that one or something else that most playwriting and screenwriting folks use. Whatever that program is fine. Yes.
All right. So, if I receive the fellowship this year, can I reapply in a different category next year? No, you may not. So when a fellow wins in any category, they have to abstain from applying again since they were a recipient of state dollars. They need to wait, pause for the next 5 years before they apply again. All righty. Was the SmartSimple site used for these individual grants in 2024? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it was. Can I apply this year if I received the 2025-2026 Jersey City Arts Council Fellowship? Yes, you can, and I hope that you do. Absolutely, yes, you can. They are not connected. There's no double dipping there. Okay. Are interactive sculptures and expanded sculpture that lies between book and sculpture or garment and sculpture eligible for the sculpture category? Or should I wait for next year's interdisciplinary category? Well, that's entirely up to you. So think about it in terms, I mean, it sounds like it'd be incredible for sculpture. And this could be one of those questions in which you want to talk it through with Jackie. To decide which place you want your work to be evaluated, because it could be a matter of deciding that you want evaluators who are looking at the majority of what they're looking at is sculptural, right? And could be interdisciplinary. It depends on who you want looking at your work. A lot of interdisciplinary works that are applied, that are used to be work samples in this program are sculptural, but also those artists are also sometimes adding other features to their work, whether it's another art form altogether, right? So 2 different art forms at least are coming together to create an interdisciplinary work. And those evaluators are very adept at looking at work like that, and are interdisciplinary artists themselves. So it's up to you. But know that if you win in that category, if you win an award in that category, you're going to have to wait 5 years to apply in the same category. Or if you want to apply in the next category, you still have to wait an additional year. So anyway, it could be an important question for you to consider. So feel free to reach out if you want to talk it through. Will the reviewers see the images in the order that they are listed in the upload?
Good Great question. So the view that you see the order in is exactly how they will see it. They will essentially, when they review the applications, they have access to that entire work samples tab and nothing else. So the way that it's laid out on your screen is the exact same way that it's going to be laid out on their screen.
Okay, great. That is a good question. That would be important because that might help contextualize what an evaluator is seeing. Thank you for having this today. This is extremely helpful. Quick question. Does New Jersey Council on the Arts have any artist assistance programs for project-based applications? I know I am writing this before the Q&A section, but I just needed to write it before forgetting. We don't have any grants here that are project-based that are outside of folk and traditional arts. Our project-based artist grants are folk and traditional arts. But we also have public art opportunities, and some of those involve proposals. So if you would like to email me or give me a call, we can talk a little bit more. We also have professional development opportunities that can help with things like that. Okay. I have 2 questions regarding image submissions. 1, although files are up to 50 MB are allowed, is there a recommended image size or file size for optimal panel review?
As long as they are clear and legible and under the only reason that there is the 50 megabyte like limitation, thank you, is because larger than that was slowing the entire system down. Like uploads were, like if you were uploading something larger, it was taking forever, and then when the panelists were trying to review it, it was taking forever for them to load. So as long as they are clear and good quality photos and under 50 megabytes, you should be fine.
Yeah. And number 2, for sculpture and installation work, may multiple images show different views or details of the same piece? Or is it preferable that each image represent a different artwork? So you can absolutely, if you feel like it is really important for an evaluator to see a particular angle or a particular detail of your work, sometimes they actually really do appreciate that too. Because SmartSimple will only let you zoom in so much on something. And so if there is something that you really want to help contextualize on the piece of work, you can have 2 samples, let's say, representing one piece of work. So be strategic about that because you ultimately are limited in how many you can share. But that may be something that makes your application stronger. It just depends on your work. And you may want to talk that through with a fellow artist or maybe someone else who's applying to make that decision. Let's see. If you are making ceramics, can more than one object be in a photo? Well, I think if each is a separate piece of work, then no, because each sample should be one work. But if one work has sort of multiple objects to show that that's the full piece of work, then yes, it can have more than one object. Is someone in a New Jersey state employee, can they apply? If someone is a New Jersey state employee, can they apply? Yes. I can't. But yes. And if you want more specifics about that, you can give me a call or send me an email. If you are a craft artist and no longer have the piece, but would like to use its image in the application, what if you can't provide the height, size, etc. requirements if that's a part of the craft application upload? Well, I mean, what do you think, Jackie? Because I would recommend that my guess is you have you made the work, so you know approximately more than likely know approximately how large the piece of work is, what the scale of that work is. That would be, even if it's your best estimate, that would be, you can share that. It doesn't have to be a perfect measurement.
Yeah.
But you need to supply at least an approximation of its specifications, so that our evaluators really understand the scale of the work that they're reviewing.
Yeah, the dimensions there are less about the like, we need to know exactly, that it's 5 feet, 3.2 inches, and more about if we don't have the dimensions, when panelists are reviewing them, they could be looking at it going, I can't tell if this is, a foot tall or if it's huge based on how it's photographed. So as long as you have a general idea of the size, that's fine. It doesn't have to be exact.
Yeah. If we use a span of time for the work of art image taken to print, will that still work if the start date is prior to 2022? So if you started before it, sure, but it has to have been finished after. I am submitting a full-length play. Will I be disqualified if part of the play is performed as a short play in a festival prior to the grants being awarded?
No, we just ask that you do not disclose that in the application. So like in your statement or in your synopsis, please do not put that it's being performed at blank theater in New Jersey. Leave out any information about that.
Yeah, perfect. Just caught my typo. My question should state, would I be disqualified if part of the play is performed as a short play prior to when the grants are awarded? Yes, we got you, Matthew. So yeah, all good. All right, so that's it for the Q&A. Let me just double check in the chat to see if I missed something. If you're a multidisciplined artist, can you submit samples from more than one application area for consideration? No. You pick one of the categories that you think your work is best suited for, and that's the one you go with.
I see, are there any application fees? No.
It's free. Application fees. No,
free to apply.
This was asked in the, all right.
Do grant winners owe taxes on any grant money they get?
Well, yes. I mean, if you were to win an award, you will fill out paperwork so that you receive a 1099 at the end of the year. And yes, it is taxable income, but to the extent to which we would say you need to consult a tax expert, because there could be ways around that issue, but it is technically considered taxable income.
If a painting includes a poem or piece of writing, can that poem be included in the additional text describing the art piece? This is 2 categories currently, but the images would be of the art piece and the description would include the poem. I would email me.
Yeah, that sounds very specific to needing to talk that through in terms of applying for poetry.
Yeah. Is there a preferred file naming format for images? Not particularly, just because if you're uploading images as work samples, you can enter the title for each one in the metadata section, and that's what folks will see rather than the file name. We just ask that, don't include your actual name in the file name. Other than that, it's fine. If you want to call it by its title, if it's just one, if it's a bunch of numbers, it doesn't matter.
If you are a traditional art creator, are you still eligible to apply? E.g. brooms. Yes, absolutely. But if you want to talk that through a little bit, you can give me a call, you can give Jackie a call. Yes. It would probably be really important for you to work out how to contextualize that for the evaluators, and we can help you to do that. In choreography, will 2 work samples, one of length 2 minutes and the other 4 minutes, be okay? So you need to have a minimum of 4 minutes for one work sample for choreography. So a 2-minute work sample would not be eligible. But that's all that would be needed. If you had one sample that was 4 minutes and you didn't have another, you could apply with the one that was 4 minutes.
And then there's one more or 2 more in the Q&A.
Okay.
Are short film scripts acceptable here? Yes. In playwriting, screenwriting, film scripts are welcome. Can the funds be used to fund another short film as long as that person is not purchasing equipment? Yes, the funding can be used for a different project.
Is relief wood carving to be considered in craft or in sculpture category? Well, again, I think that would be a matter of who you would, let's look at who the evaluators have been in the past even. That might be good, helpful context for you. These are the types of evaluators that have been brought on to do that work, and decide where you think, similar folks will be brought on to do the work. Each year, different evaluators are brought in, but it's a similar sort of, band of professionals and fellow artists and creators. So it is dependent upon who you prefer looking and like evaluating your work, and sharing their thoughts and opinions with you.
Yeah, ultimately it's up to you. Just every time folks ask, I say, ask yourself if you would rather have a panel of sculpture experts and artists reviewing your work, or crafts experts and artists, and which one makes more sense for you.
Yeah. And it could be that you just need, you need to talk that through with someone. And also it could be helpful for you to see who has evaluated those categories in the past. Okay, everyone, I think we made it through. If we missed anything, apologies, but you know how to find us.
Yes. Yes, thank you all for joining us again. Please be in touch if you have questions. The sooner the better. The early bird deadline again is
June 25th.
June 25th. Thank you. I just lost my brain. If you submit by June 25th, 5 p.m., and there's something wrong on your application or there's a mistake, you will receive a request for revisions. If you submit after that, that's okay, and you can submit it by 5 p.m. on July 2nd instead, but please understand that it will be considered ineligible if there is a mistake or an error. So double and triple check your application before you submit is what we're trying to say.
I see one more question. Yes. Where can I find a list of panelists? If you email us, we'll send you one. Yeah. Okay. Because you can't find it on a website, but if you email us, we can send that and share it with you.
Sure. All right. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks, Steph. And we look forward to hearing from you all and reviewing applications. Have a
Yes.
great rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.